So with that, let's get into the objectives and the course structure. I could be informal and say that I'll tell you what the tech lead role is and how to be a good TL. But a little bit more formally, what I've tried to do is create a blueprint here so that you go home with a very good understanding of what TL role is, what good TLs are like, what great TLs are like, and then, how can you become a TL? So the course structure alludes to that a little bit. First, we'll start with curiosity. What is a tech lead? Then we lead it up with why this role exists and what are some of the archetypes of this role. Followed by that, we'll talk about the core of this course, which is TL duties. And I've broken it down into 3 parts, and we'll get more into that. And we'll finally wrap it up with how great tech leads behave and certain tricky situations that, even a great TL has to deal with. So one additional thing which I wanted to mention is how to use this course effectively. And first thing is that you need to recognize there is no single perfect approach. As is always the case in software engineering, and you already know this, there's a lot of competing variables, and that's real life. It's hard to boil it down to 2 or 3 variables and create a perfect equation around it. Situations that you deal as a leader or a TL are going to be nuanced. So what I'm going to talk about is some approaches, possible approaches. They might be ignoring some very fundamental constraints, but in general, this type of advice is applicable, but sometimes it's not, so use your judgment, and it's this is supposed to help you out build that type of judgment. The other thing is we are going to be talking about a lot of situations and skill sets and practical things that you can do as a TL. Maybe you're doing some of that already. Maybe some of those you're lacking. I would say that whenever we discuss a behavioral trait as a leader or as a TL, you take a pause and think about your own situation in your own organizations. Are you exuding those behaviors? Are you do you have that skill set? Do you need to work on it yourself? If yes, how can you do it? So for example, I will talk about trust a little bit. You can take that framework and see who trusts you, who do you trust, and how can you build trust with some of these people. So it's very important that you reflect on yourself. Otherwise, I feel like this is just another one of those self-help books that we all read, but it doesn't bring a change in our life, So reflection is going to be your superpower through this course. And lastly, you are going to have a very long career as a TL. If you love software engineering, you will end up as being one. You will stay as being a TL or a leader for a long time. And, the kind of tricky situations that I will discuss, you perhaps will face it not now, maybe in the future. You can always come back and use some of the things that I discuss here. And with that, let's get into it.